if you base everything off of values, a couple of things will happen in my personal experience. You will lose a lot less customers. So maybe you gain customers more slowly, but you will not lose them as easily. If, for example, I was just buying the cheapest coffees possible and I was hitting 100 cafes a day all across Canada with samples, and then I would gain 20 new accounts a week, right? I can guarantee you that I can lose that account as fast as I gained it because it was just based on price. There was nothing else going on there. And if anybody comes with a cheaper price, then they're going to kick me out.
This episode is proudly brought to you by Mapper Forward's workshop. It's time to become a coffee consultant. Learn how to diversify your revenue streams and create freedom from your day job while saying goodbye to that alarm clock forever by becoming a consultant within the coffee industry or directly to consumers who have shifted towards home brewing and home roasting. Protect your income from challenging times in the coffee value chain by taking this course today. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for details. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and unfortunately, this is the last episode in what has been a delightful conversation with David Rabbithole. There are some series, David, that I wish I wasn't the host. I just wish that I was like everybody else listening to this, and this is one of those series. I really appreciate what you do for the industry. I appreciate the way that you challenge my thinking through your account, your meme account. I appreciate the accountability that you hold the entire industry to. Some may look at it and say, well, this is a bit extreme. And others may look at it and say, this isn't enough. Wherever anyone that's listening to this sits on the spectrum, I hope at least you will be daring enough to look at David's meme account, which is linked in the show notes, and you will start to consider this is not just some guy who has nothing to do and he's sitting around and he's like gaming and he's like, he wants to troll the coffee industry, right? And I know that there are people out there that think that. He's not just some barista that's like, hey man, like he's getting high and he's just like, let's see who we can fuck over in the coffee industry today. That's not what's going on here, right? He's a business owner. He's a skilled professional. He's a grown man. He's a family man and he lives by his values. And he's inviting you to do the same thing, which is really similar to what we're doing on this podcast. So as we've discussed everything that we discussed in the past 4 episodes, now we want to look to the future. And we're going to ask ourselves in this episode of the series, where does the coffee industry go from here? And I want to start that conversation by asking you, David, are you hopeful about the future in coffee, or are you pessimistic about the future in coffee?
That's a good question. Let me tell you first that I need people like you to ask me those questions too, because that's why I love doing podcasts or interviews or whatever you want to call this, is because I'm used to thinking the way I think, but then you will phrase a question differently. And then it make me think differently, and I can come up with different answers with my style that maybe you were not expecting, and then you can think of other questions. And I think this is like a beautiful thing about communication, right? And am I pessimistic about the industry? No, I'm not pessimistic in the sense that I think about what the alternatives are. So I don't even think about, is it possible to make a better industry? Is what I'm doing important? Will it even matter when I'm gone? I don't even think about that kind of stuff because I think about what the alternative is. The alternative is just to give up. And I cannot do this. Like, either you work within the system to maintain the system, no matter how bad it is, because you can maybe profit from it or whatever, or you work about trying to work differently and dismantle those systems. And I think we've reached a point where there's not that much in the middle. I think the future of coffee is just about realization and about facts and about really hard truths. Is just, we're in a state right now where I could just shut up and I could still benefit from this industry because of where I am placed. But that's just pure dumb luck where I was born. I was born on the easy side of colonialism. There's no other way to put this. I did nothing for that, right? So I do have some hope that my little stupid Instagram account can maybe inspire one business owner with more volume than me that's going to decide to try to flip his business around to base more things on values. So again, am I really that hopeful? Maybe not, but I think that question is important to ask, but I think it's also at the same time irrelevant in a sense, because I focus on the alternative, and I just cannot give up on this industry because I love coffee so much, and I think we could do better. And I think one of the mandate that I try to give myself is to try to do small acts that can make a little group of people or a bigger group of people just think slightly differently. Because this is one of the things that I got the most early on when I was starting to meme or like be a bit more quote unquote controversial. And people think that I just love to stir some shit for no reason, like you said. But let me tell you something. I have a lot of things to do. I'm not always happy to be the one saying the things that I say. Might come as a shock to some people, but like I'm kind of a deeply introverted person as well. I present differently on social media for sure, maybe on this podcast as well, but all I want is to be left alone. And I wish that the industry would be in such a beautiful state that I could just enjoy coffee, don't even worry about if the farmer was well paid, just be in my garden with my 3 babies. This is what I would love to do. But we also do not live in that world. And this is why I do the type of content, and this is why I do the type of green buying that I do with Rabbithole. So what does the future of coffee hold? I think it's going to be about accountability for our role in the industry. It's not our fault that the industry is what it is today, but it's our responsibility to change it. Otherwise, in a couple of years, we will also be guilty of participating in perpetuating the state of the industry right now. Another concept that I think is really important, and I've learned this from a British economist. His name is Jason Hickel, and he talks about degrowth instead of like growth. So I really love this concept because he recently did a paper with other academics, and basically with 30% of the existing resources on Earth that we know about and 30% of the existing infrastructure, whatever it is for electricity, heating, plant, all that stuff, right? We could provide free healthcare, a house, a job, only a 4-day work week, something like that, to everybody on Earth and then some by using only 30%. And the whole concept of degrowth for me is important when it comes to coffee, which is if you focus on values, you will grow slower. There's just no way 100%. Around that.
Anybody who's confused by that needs to try and build a values-based business. And if you don't mind, I just want to harp on that for a second.
For sure.
Guys, if you think of who are not values-driven businesses, and let's say the people who pretend to be values-driven businesses, any business that is a publicly listed company, I don't give a fuck how much they talk about their values on their website. They are not a values-driven business. They have a fiduciary responsibility, a financial responsibility to make their shareholders as much money as they can. Yes. They are not values-driven companies, which means Nestle, as much as they want to go about we buy fair trade and we do this and we do that, their job is to make their shareholders as much money as possible. Okay? Yes. It is very important for you to understand that. And so their job is to find the best quality coffee that they can for the cheapest price in the quickest amount of time. And they have to make sure that they don't spend a lot of money on all the other expenses to make that happen, which is like storage. So that's why they have just-in-time inventory, which means that they don't have anything sitting on the shelf. They don't have massive amounts of green coffee sitting around for them, which means that puts stress on the supply chain. These are not as much as, look, and I know great people at big organizations, but they are employees of a much bigger machine. Yes. When you choose to be a values-driven company, And if you want to become a values-driven company and you don't know how to do that, shameless plug, join the Mastermind groups. That is what it is all about. And it is about being financially successful at doing that. But the idea is that it is a slower build because there are many, many roadblocks that are put in front of you if you want to live to a specific standard. It is so easy. Let me tell you, living in Dubai, it is so easy. The amount of things you get offered that are not aligned with your values. The amount of people that approach me and say, hey, you're living in Dubai. Maybe there's some things you can do to help me fast track. Here, take a suitcase of money. No, thank you. No, thank you. Living by a values standard means that you are choosing to do the things that you believe in for the long run.
Yes.
There may be moments where you have to buy specific coffees because you can't get access to anything else. It's the only thing you can afford to keep your business going. But when you decide to let that slip the first time, you better be sure you don't let it slip the second time, because that's when the slippery slope starts, right, David?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You can't let that happen, but if you base everything off of values, a couple of things will happen in my personal experience. You will lose a lot less customers. So maybe you gain customers more slowly, but you will not lose them as easily. Mm-hmm. If, for example, I was just buying the cheapest coffees possible and I was hitting 100 cafes a day all across Canada with samples, and then I would gain 20 new accounts a week, right? Mm-hmm. I can guarantee you that I can lose that account as fast as I gained it, because it was just based on price. There was nothing else going on there. And if anybody comes with a cheaper price, then they're going to kick me out and they're going to make that new roaster. So it's expensive to do that. You need to have people on the road. You need to waste money on samples, and it's time. So I think we also need to realize that coffee, both for coffee buyers, for cafe owners, for consumer, is going to be a choice. What I mean by that is exactly what you said in an earlier episode, is that people don't mind when the price of wine or craft beer goes up, and they will still go to that place. But coffee for centuries has been commodified. Mm-hmm. And they want to make sure coffee is cheap, because coffee should be interchangeable with any other origin, right? They want it to act as a fungible, item. But it's still a choice. You decide that you want to pay $12 for a craft beer. I'm not shaming you for doing that, by the way. This is your life.
It's your money to spend.
For sure. But what I have a problem with is you spending $12 on a craft beer, but after that saying that you cannot pay more for coffee as a consumer. I think there's a disconnect here, because you could decide to invest more in coffee and less on beers. Again, I'm not telling you what to do. It's your life, but I'm just saying that it's a decision. It's a decision for a cafe owner to deal with whatever company that offers a cheaper coffee, or to work with Rabbithole. Do we charge more than the average roaster? Not that much, but we just don't have that one or two options that are going to be way below everything else that we have. But then if you connect through values and you're willing to pay a little bit more for your coffee, when you break it down to the cost of the latte, it's not that much more money that we would charge for people for like our values, right? But once you find those accounts, they're not going anywhere. And then when you have buying relationship at origin, and it's open, is based on trust, you will not lose that relationship as if it's just like cup score and price based. Mm-hmm. So everything grows slower. It's more work, but it's also more worth it at the end, because
it's more sustainable.
Exactly, because you don't need to try to extract as much value from both your employees' labor by paying them cheap salaries for being baristas or roasters, and then haggle for the price of coffee. And then with that capital accumulation, you can open a second cafe. You repeat, you open 2 more cafes, you expand your roasteries, but then the price of coffee goes up for your cheap coffee, and your business model becomes instantly not profitable because you're used to that certain price. So now you will push for alternatives. You will try to push the price down, or you will fire people, or you will lose account if you raise your prices. It becomes this whole complete shit show if you base this on pure growth for growth's sake. But slow growth is beautiful growth, because all the people we work with right now as wholesale partners, I would give them free coffee for a month if they would be just like, hey, something happened, I can't pay you. I wouldn't care, because I know it's going to come back tenfold to me. And I'm sure that, and every time we raise our prices, we even have some people that say, hey, I thought you would raise the price earlier this year because they expected that, because we talk about this constantly. So I think that also open communication is going to be key. Being tolerant to being uncomfortable is also going to be a key to the future of coffee, because once you start digging into coffee's history and the state of coffee right now, it's not a beautiful learning experience. Like, you're not going to enjoy yourself if you learn about how Haiti was the main coffee producers 2 centuries ago to what happened when they gained their independence and how things haven't gotten better since then. It's not a pleasant experience, but it's something that you need to be aware of, so you can try to find systems that are not going to be repeating those atrocities that's been going on for centuries, literally. So I'm happy to disagree with people on those types of things. Anybody can reach out to me at all time. Like I said, I'm much more approachable than I let people kind of like feel on my Instagram. But like, anytime people disagree, it's with those friction and disagreements that we will all learn something. The only requirement that I have is that we all want to move in the same direction. We don't need to take the same path to go there. We don't need to agree on 100% to go there. But my only requirement is that your criticism needs to come from a place where you still want to go to kind of the same place of where I want to go. So, which means a more quote unquote sustainable industry, by having the right values attached to that growth and the right values attached to that industry.
What do you think about employees who are listening to this and thinking, well, what's my role in this? How do I make sure that I am supporting the right companies? How does an employee figure that out?
It's going to be obviously way harder, because just me, I worked for other roasters in the past, and I would never tone down my tone when I was talking with like wholesale clients, for example, or I was challenging some people in power in those companies, because I was asking questions just like, hey, how does this work? Like, when we're talking like close to 10 years ago now, when I knew way less about like supply chain, but I would ask innocent question like, how can farmers survive if we pay them $1.80 a pound? Like, just innocent question, right? But people didn't like that at all. Like, so for me to talk the way I talk now, it just comes from a place of no one can fire me. I own the business. So I'm going to say it's easier for me to talk the way that I talk because of, let's call this privilege, because it is a privilege, what I have now. No one can fire me, literally. I can run into problems later down the road, but right now, like my job and my business is secure. Also, our customers are working with us because they like what I say. So again, my customer base is also somewhat secure. It can always change, right? But when you're an employee, I would still try to ask as much question as possible within the sphere in which you're working, maybe in a different tone than you and I have been talking today, just because to not like attack your manager or your bosses, so it needs to be in a different kind of tone. But if you are getting some shit for just asking questions because you want to make the industry better, and then you get problems for that, I think that if you can afford it, I would try to find another position someplace else, Also, I think that maybe more like passive learning, in sense of like not public. So read more books, form your own opinion about things, and don't believe everything that your bosses say. Even if you come work for Rabbithole, challenge me all the time, because maybe I missed something. Maybe you view things on a different way. Maybe you know something that I don't. And I think that if people slowly start asking questions at their jobs. It's really hard to do though, because you don't want to lose your job and your job security too. So I get that. But I think that connecting also from people outside of your job, talk to other people in the same position with another company. Maybe they know more than you. Maybe they will be happy to share. Maybe you'll both be shy at first and be just like, okay, so you do this and you don't like it. I do this and I don't like it. What the fuck is going on? We need to figure out a way to not be doing this anymore. We need to find a way to challenge. And sometimes what it comes to is people try to unionize. And then this is very hard to do, but then those internal conversation or like conversations with peer can lead to greater things, so that it would make their lives better. And then they could have more power within that company. It's just one of the examples of things that I think people could look at. And also just reach to people all the time. Nobody is big enough so that you cannot reach them. Literally, we have to stop with those stupid ass coffee celebrity cults. Literally, oh no,
amen.
I can't disagree with so and so. I have so many names I want to say right now, but I'm not going to say it.
Go on.
I want to say so many names, but because there's a thing. I never want to attack one person. I want to attack the systems.
Yeah. But I'm with you.
Nobody is perfect. Nobody is above reproach. So reach out, ask questions about people, or ask to them directly. DM me with any question you want. If you disagree 100% with something that I said, please let me know, because two things can happen. Either you can learn something from me and you can come towards where I am, or maybe I missed something or I didn't understand it well enough and I will come your way. And guess what? We will both be better after this. So nobody is that big or that important that you can be just like, oh, if they said it, then it must be true. The fuck is not. Literally not. You cannot just put everybody on a pedestal just because they have 100,000 followers. It's not how this coffee industry works, but I can see sometimes that it kind of how it works with some people. And this needs, be curious, challenge every single thing that you hear about coffee, because people will always protect their interest first, no matter what they say.
Amen. That's the only thing. Amen.
I'm thirsty now.
Tell people where they can find you and how they can support your business, and where they can find Rabbithole Roasters.
So shipping is a shit show right now, everywhere on earth.
Everywhere.
But we do ship really easily anywhere in Canada and the United States. Mm-hmm. If you are a business outside, we can sometimes make something work. But again, we'll charge you as much for the coffee as for the shipping, probably. And you can support the work that I do with my business, RabbitholeRoasters.com and Rabbithole Roasters on Instagram. And if you want raw, nonstop, uncomfortable coffee truths, you can find me at David's Rabbit Hole on Instagram. And there's more projects coming, but I'll leave it at that for now. But there's going to be some industry status quo challenging projects in the works for early 2025 if everything goes well.
And we all can't wait. Now, free Palestine. Free
Always
Palestine.
Free Palestine.
We started saying with the whole thing with that.
Yeah.
We're going to end it with Free Palestine. And if there's anything you want to say before you sign off this series, before you do that, I just want to say again, thank you for what you're doing in the industry. Thank you for challenging me to think differently, because that helps inform the kinds of conversations I want to have on the podcast. So folks, never underestimate the power that you have when you are talking from your heart and you are talking from your values. Never underestimate how important that can be and the ripple effects that can have. So David, please sign off this series for us if you so desire.
For sure. Peace, love, and peanut butter.
Have an amazing rest of your day, everyone. Bye. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon. And stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward.